Alrighty, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I got my better microphone hooked up tonight. The last stream, unfortunately, I was using my headphone mic. My usual mic was over here underneath a big pile of steaming underwear and baked beans. Don't ask me why, but here we are now. I This is something that I've been wanting to do since we released, because as I've said before, the release of Peace Island could not have been worse had it not been. I mean, really, I think the only way it could have been worse is if, again, Peace Island app had just deleted everybody's hard drives and replaced it with Nick Fuentes videos and photographs of shirtless old men. And as a result, admittedly, a heck of a lot of the reviews were very negative, and quite frankly, a heck of a lot of the negative reviews were absolutely justified. For some reason, we've gotten this um, reputation of not accepting bad feedback. Actually, we treasure bad feedback. If you look at our Steam page, we've actually thanked people who've given constructive negative reviews and offered them a free Steam key so they can help us make the game better. Now, I wanted to take a moment just to address, one of the reviews. And trust me, I want to say this at the outset. I mean, I want to reiterate at the outset, we have no problem with negative feedback. We understand negative feedback, and we are frustrated with the troubles of the game just as everybody else is. So we want to get this solved just as much as everybody else does. Here's how to give us constructive feedback if you're not aware. At the very beginning of our release, people were just telling us your game is horrible, it's a train wreck, it's awful, it's an embarrassment, etc. Fine, you can insult. I mean, you could throw those words at us all we want. I mean, maybe they're not insults, maybe they're accurate. But here's the thing: tell us how it's awful. Tell us how it's train wreck. Tell us how you came to that decision and why you had to say that, and then we could talk. There was somebody on our Discord recently who came on, and I forget exactly, they said our game was dreadful. He or she, they mentioned two bugs, and we took care of them. Top priority. So anyway, we're going to go back to our first review that I want to address. Now, I don't have it exactly because so many bad reviews, but the one that really caught me last night, I think it was a result of something. I think they bought it, they played it for about 20 or 30 minutes 1 or 2 days ago, and their review, and I will say completely fair, even though I disagree with it. Too much useless information, and they talk too much about politics on their social media. Okay, I will say that perhaps, both of those. Well, I'll say, well, hmm. I would say that the first piece of this up here, too much information, useless information, is kind of hard for this individual to judge, considering from what I saw on the Steam page, they only played it for about less than 30 minutes. Understand, every letter, every book, every story, every a piece of paper, every letter, every memo, every notebook you come across has information that is pertinent to the entire game. Some of it is not as direct as some people would prefer, but this is, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of ergodic fiction, but this the game is, it was designed to be a piece of ergodic fiction. And if you wonder if you want to know what ergodic fiction is, it's basically a video game, essentially, where to get to understand the narrative of a given story, it demands work on the part of the viewer or the reader. Like a friend of mine said, we never thought of our roles as storytellers in this game, in creating this game, as somebody who just takes a player and goes, this is what you got to do here. This is what you got to do here. For example, we recently had somebody on our Discord, I believe, that got in touch and they said, I don't know what to do. I mean, there's garbage I can pick up, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, there are about a dozen flyers all around the island that you can view that talk about an island cleanup. And they describe where to take the trash. We do not feel that it is our place to literally take the player and by the hand and point out everything that they want to do. We believe that it's more rewarding for the player to pick up, just pay attention to what's going on in the game and figure it out on their own. We even though I'm not the biggest Abrams fan, there's a heck of a lot of the puzzle box element to Peace Island, and I understand after about 20 or 30 minutes, this. I mean, it looks like a lot of useless information, but again, if you really just start paying attention, you'll start to notice connections. You just will. And again, here's the that's absolutely cool that this person considers it too much useless information. I mean, I understand that a heck of a lot of people don't like to read inside their games. They want to go in there, go boom, boom, boom. They want to do, and hey, that's absolutely cool. And again, I have no problem with this review. They were absolutely honest. They didn't just come in and say your game sucks. They presented their complaints in a very simple and understandable manner. Now, again, I'm not saying that this review, their first complaint, is incorrect. Um, to a lot of gamers, yes. I could totally imagine. There are goodness gracious, 950 pages worth of information in the game now. I've forgotten. I've literally forgotten how many pages of stuff there is in the game. And a lot of people don't like that. No, there is no such thing as a game made for everybody. So again, I really appreciate this guy's feedback, but maybe we need to. I think this is partially our fault. Maybe we need to put on our Steam page a little bit more explanation about what the game is and what the gameplay is like. It is a walking simulator with a heck of a lot of reading in it, and just paying attention. In fact, there's this one thing that'll only happen a couple of times a day, unless you're viewing it from a certain place at a certain time in a certain direction. You will never see it. But we put that in there. This is a game about paying attention and just sort of just looking. And now, again, that is not for everybody. Now, let me go on to the second point. They talk too much about politics on their social media. Um, this brings me back to something that I posted very, very early in Peace Island's development. And this is here. And I'm going to read this out. And by the way, I see people chatting over here. I'm going to respond to those as we get to those, as I get, down. As I get to the end of my dissertation and my response here, I do want to respond to, people chatting over there. But here we go. Hey all, it's Eric, the lead developer. Man, my mouth is dry. Give me a moment. Not used to talking at length. Um, let's see. Hey all, it's Eric, the lead developer of Peace Island, and I wanted to mention I've been getting a few comments from people expressing their hope that we are keeping politics out of the game. I want to avoid. Here's my problem in addressing this concern. I want to avoid politics in our game, but I live in the USA, and it's strange. This was written about 5 years ago, and it's gotten even worse, where, much to the detriment of our public discourse, everything has been politicized. Understand that in some parts of my country, wearing a face mask in the midst of a global pandemic is considered to be political. Um, so personally, I don't get that politicization of everything. But there's one thing for certain. In such an environment, I guarantee that there are going to be people who will take the time to find a way to call just about anything and everything in Peace Island political. Why? Well, I sincerely believe that it's because there are people who are sad creatures with nothing else to do with their lives. Now, I'm not saying this is that reviewer. I'm just saying this is some of the people out there. I'm certain, nothing to do with their lives. I'm certain that someone will retire to their fainting couch when they find out that our game mentions climate change. And they will say that's political. Climate change discussion is not political. Facts are facts. There's going to be somebody who will raise a hue and cry because a few of the erstwhile humans on Peace Island were gay, even though they're nowhere in the game. It's just going to be mentioned in a couple of places, but there are going to be people who have a problem with that. They're going to call that political. And I again, creating a diverse background cast for a game or a book or a movie or anything is not a political choice, except in some circumstances. And I'm looking at you, Kurtzman, over there at Star Trek Academy. But let's move on. Um, Rather, it's to make the stories interesting. I mean, even goodness gracious, the book We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, which was the book that inspired George Orwell to write 1984, was was set in this future where everybody literally was supposed to be 100% identical all the time, so much so that their meal times they had to chew in synchronicity with each other. But in that novel, he had like a flapper girl, an African man, and etc. Because if you're going to be making, I mean, honest to good, even that novel, what is that white supremacist novel, the Turner Diaries, that has some characters in it that are not white, crazy neo Nazis. Because William Pierce, as bad as an author he was, he realized I got to have some, variety here. Otherwise, it's going to be an incredibly boring. So, anyway, let's proceed from that. Let's see. I'm certain that Peace Island mentions unfortunate historical facts such as slavery and the forced displacement of Native American tribes. Some will find their hair suddenly on fire. You see, in such an environment, there's nothing I or anybody else can do on this project to avoid, accusations of being political when literally trying to save your own life with wearing a mask was considered political, where like inclusion of interesting characters in a book or a movie is considered to be political. I just, you see, there's nothing I could do to assuage the feelings of somebody. I'm sorry, what's a snowflake so soft and so delicate that they take offense at everything, that they're triggered at everything. So I cannot bother with the people like again, pronouns. That guy who is just so absolutely upset that a game set in the far future might have might allow for different pronouns. I'm wondering if, again, that pronouns guy had ever led any science fiction and considered literally hundreds of years in the future, if not thousands. We're going to have so many freaking pronouns. We won't even know what to do with them. So again, it's I don't there's no way of satisfying people like that. Now, I want to go on to something else. Is that um, Well, not a heck of a lot of games are political. A lot of games are. You have this war. Uh, what was the not The Walking Dead. I'm very sorry. I never played it, but it's the game about the girl in with the zombie virus that has political elements in it. So many games have political elements. And there's this one. I'm going to just look this up. There's this one Elite Force game. I forget. I don't play action games. I'm going to try and open up my. Um, I'm going to say we have. Let me just, see, it was a combat game where the player um, I think they do. They literally kill a column of civilian refugees. Yeah, The Last of Us. Thank you, thank you. Yes, Spec Ops: The Line. There is a where basically players are forced or tempted to open fire on a column of civilians and soldiers. I can't think of anything more political than that. And if you've ever seen, the after, I mean, that is incredible. There's politics all over the place, but it seems that some people have problems with politics that they disagree with. Um, and I'm sorry for that. I didn't make the whole list, but trust me, you can go out and you can find a hell of a lot of games that have political content. I mean, honest to goodness, what L.A. Noire had commentary on racism. and the anti-communist like craze and everything. There is just so I don't understand where people don't say, oh, games aren't political, and I hate politics, and they're everything is political. No offense, but I just want to bring in one. The next thing is that whenever they come in, and they always seem to come in with this idea that we are offending half of our audience. Um, those I'm very sorry if you're one of those people that comes on there and thinks that the MAGA revolution is still going on, and that by saying anything negative about the current political situation in the United States is removing 50% of our audience. Understand that a good segment of our audience is outside of the United States, and whether you're willing to admit it or not, and again, I'm I'm old. I remember. Um, Understand that the whole MAGA movement right now is exploding, and this is the first war that I have ever seen in the United States engaging in where, from the outset, the majority of the American people identify with what we are supposed to call the enemy. I'm very sorry, guys. You would like to think that 50% of the people in the entire world are MAGA and agree with you. But worldwide, I would say maybe generously 5%. And really, if you're willing to go, if you talk about domestically, understand you're sinking fast. I would say about in saying anything bad about Trump, we're offending about 22 to 23% of the American people. Um, and here's the reason why um, we feel it is important to talk about our opposition to Donald Trump and this administration that, again, only about 20%, 20 some odd percent of the American population still supports, is because the United States, and I say this with absolutely no sense of hyperbole, is flirting with descent into fascism, into authoritarianism. I am seeing things that right now that I've never seen in my life and have no real precedence in all of American history. Um, I believe, and we believe, as citizens of the world, it is our responsibility to speak out about these things. Because if you're not aware of what's going on right now, that side there that claims to have 50% on in their clutches here, they started a war with Iran on behalf of Israel, with no exit plan, no concept of what in the hell they were doing, and it's led to the deaths of thousands of people. And honest to goodness, somebody has to stand up as this is the time for American citizens to stand up and say they are against this. And if you're one of the few people that, again, that 22, 24% of the American population that still believes that, oh yeah, everything is great and Donald Trump is going fine, hey, you wonder why, we on the other side of things assume that you guys are illiterate. It's because we consider the idea that you actually read, his policies and understand what's going on, and are still 100% on board with it. We consider that to be absolutely terrifying. We just assume that you are just a little bit behind on facts and a little bit just information deprived. Because again, the idea that somebody would actually be paying attention to objective information and still come up with the idea that, again, invading a country on the behalf of Israel is a great idea, and spending, literally $1.5 billion a day on a war that was unnecessary. No, no, no. Hey, that's on you. And feel free to stop supporting us. Feel free to stop, playing our game. That's absolutely fine with us. But anyway, I think I've really gone over, again, that first review we got, where somebody said, again, after 30 minutes of play, there's too much useless information before they had the chance to integrate the information. That's absolutely valid. Again, our game is not for everybody. So cool. And if we talk too much about politics on our social media, um, fair. Um, we don't talk about I mean, on my Discord, yes, I do talk about politics occasionally on our social media. I think on our Facebook we posted, our opposition to Trump's war in Iran, and if that's too much, hey, fair enough.